Alright guys, welcome back to Celestial Invitational. I'm D2, with me is Monk, and we just saw the second match, Lifecoach versus Blue, go to Lifecoach 3 games to 1 after Blue had a couple early concedes. So far we have Firebat and Lifecoach as winners, and Zoroa and Blue as losers thus far, but we do have 4 matches remaining, and the next one, probably the most hype of this group, is going to be Firebat versus Lifecoach. And just overall, what do you think about this match?
Yeah, both players are currently 1 win apiece and 0 losses. So this is gonna probably propel whoever wins the next match into the playoffs, into the round of 8. So definitely a very exhilarating match there. Not only that, but Firebat and Lifecoach are widely regarded as probably around top 5 players in the entire world. So a very hyped match indeed. But not only that, these players will have to be bringing suboptimal decks and suboptimal classes to this match. And I have a little surprise for you guys. Both these players have Shaman in their lineup, and we're going to see Firebat. We're going to see his deck list right now.
All right, there it is for you on the screen. And if you guys are just tuning in and you're wondering why they're playing Shaman, it's because they have to play all 9 classes today. So 3 classes each per match, and they play 3 matches today. It looks like it's going to be the more aggro-focused Shaman. It's probably the best Shaman right now. Obviously, Luffy and Rayned helping to innovate that. For his warrior, going to be a patron warrior, and for his hunter, looks like it's going to be a hybrid hunter.
Right. So this Mech Shaman deck list, it looks to be a carbon copy of Raynad's deck list that he used to get rank 5 on the NA server, I believe. So shout outs to Raynad. Thanks for Tempo Storm for hosting this tournament on their channel again. This Patron Warrior, I think Firebat he's kind of known for playing Patron Warrior, but he's also known for not liking Control Warrior. So I can definitely see why he went for this path. And the Hybrid Hunter is another interesting pick, I would say. I think most people these days are leaning towards sort of the mid-range Hunter style, because the problem with Hybrid Hunter is that a lot of its minions don't really trade that well in the early stages of the game anymore. Like against Priest, for example, you can't really deal with the early minions. Against Paladin, it's kind of hard as well.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing to keep in mind, guys, is that these players didn't know which players they were submitting these decks to, against. They were basically told, okay, submit 3 or submit 9 decks, and they, designate 3 for each class, so you can kind of, put them together in a way that could be a good match strategy in general. But they didn't submit. Basically, they said, okay, these are my match 1 decks, these are my match 2 decks, these are my match 3 decks. That's how they went about it, and it's resulting in this kind of interesting spot where Lifecoach is going to have to smork it up today with the aggro Shaman. I am loving this. Typically, between these two guys, you're going to see, a really long, drawn-out match. Firebat maybe plays, Freeze Mage, Lifecoach with heavy control decks, but today is going to be a lot of aggro. It looks like his mage is going to be Mech Mage, and his hunter is going to be a high...
Mid-range, definitely
yeah,
mid-range.
mid-range, yeah, mid-range. Sorry
Do,
about
do
that.
you honestly ever expect Lifecoach to bring anything but mid-range Hunter
Yeah,
if
that's
he's
true.
if he's forced to bring Hunter, basically?
That's true. That's true. He does enjoy the mid-range hunter. He is basically the inventor of the Sunshine Hunter, obviously. But
Right.
I am just looking at this Shaman deck. I am loving the opportunity to be able to see Lifecoach smork it.
Yeah, exactly. Typically, Lifecoach will bring 3 control decks to tournaments, but this is certainly a rare opportunity. With regard to that Hunter deck, I asked him once. I was at a tournament with him, Assembly in Finland, and he brought a mid-range Hunter deck. I don't know if you remember around that time period. Hybrid Hunter was widely regarded as the better Hunter variation. I would say about 70 or 80% of players were bringing Hybrid Hunter instead of mid-range or Phase Hunter. And I asked Lifecoach, it's
Whoa,
widely regarded that,
what?
oh wow.
We're already this far into a game? That's
Well,
bizarre.
let's hold on that thought for a second. Let's get back to it later
What?
on. But um, it's okay. Let's take us a moment to figure out what's going on here. Lifecoach
Well,
smorking up with the shaman. I can't exactly see the warrior's health right now. That probably matters quite a bit.
yeah. The thing is, these matches are delayed a little bit, so this is kind of confusing to me that they're that it's gotten to this point. I feel like they could start from the beginning if they wanted to, but in any case, this is where we are. Turn 8 looks like Firebat's in a decent position. Lifecoach has a decent amount of damage in his hand. He can get his opponent down to 6 right here. Just kind of depends on the top decks coming out from Lifecoach. Looks like he's gonna hold off on
Right.
doing damage to, or basically using the the lightning bolt on his face until he gets the spell damage totem. But gonna commit the tunnel trug.
Right. So, we're kind of getting right into this game, but generally these days there's that not that many heal cards from the warrior, not many armor gains. Shield block has been really cut from these decks, and you really basically are left with armor smith and sometimes the one or two unstable ghouls along with that armor smith. Other than that, just Firebat just going to be getting just 2 health a turn, but that might not be enough if any kind of burn is drawn.
Yeah, definitely. Life Coach. The funny thing also is that if he draws something like Doomhammer, he could do 5 damage using that because he can attack with the Power Mace first. Noitron is the pickup here. Never lucky. But yeah, looking for probably something like Lava Burst, though we don't know if he's already used some of these burn cards to kind of, chunk Firebat down to the health he currently is at. So yeah, this is going down to the wire. Life Coach all in, gonna need to just get as much damage to face as possible. Whereas Firebat just trying to hold on, maybe find an Armor Smith and just make sure to weave in the hero power every single turn.
Right, very key in Rotron here. If he didn't get something like this, then he probably would have died because it's pretty much lethal on board with the Inner Rage.
Yeah.
So again, if okay, that didn't work out really well. If the Boombot hit perfectly, I believe that was lethal as
Yeah,
well.
it was lethal. We get an instant replay there. Sorry about the
Right.
lag from the Chinese server here.
I just really wanted to see that Boombot do its work again.
Yeah,
It's
because
almost as if there were two Boombots.
exactly. So it looks like it's going to be an inner rage just to maximize the amount of mana that Firebat can use rather than using that whirlwind. Or maybe okay, it's going to go for both. It looks like. And what can he pick up here that's actually lethal?
Ooh.
Gets a
Um,
ton of cards here. Cool task. Is that lethal?
I think it's less about lethal and more about surviving. Like the Dread Corsair is going to do a lot
Right,
of work here.
right. Yeah, the Dread Corsair is a pretty big deal. Probably going to play that and maybe use the Lotheb. I believe he has lethal even if he uses the Lotheb here. So probably use the Lotheb just to not take any damage at all. Use the Dr. Boom on face and smack face with his weapon. And Life Coach is down to this draw, which I don't believe he has any draws unless he gets spell damage plus Lava Burst. That's not going to be it. So yeah, Firebat looks like he's going to take game one. Certainly, I would say a favorite matchup for the patron versus the kind of Smorky Shaman. Um,
Right. I think honestly, Firebat was going to get a win out of this deck against Life Coach's lineup, no matter what. Patron Warrior against 3 very aggressive decks. I mean, Patron Warrior is the deck you want to use to farm aggressive decks, and Firebat just did that perfectly here.
yeah, in Conquest, it's kind of the opposite effect, right? It's not that what you can clear with or what you can get the wins with. It's more what you can kind of prevent your opponent from getting the wins with, right? So being able to kind of prevent Life Coach from getting any sort of getting his shaman out of the way easily, that can play a major factor in his conquest format. So, yeah, apologies for that. I'm kind of out of control that the match started at turn 8, but Firebat's going to take that game 1, and that's going to leave Shaman and Hunter for Firebat, whereas Life Coach has Hunter, Shaman, and Mage remaining. And like some of you in chats noticed, it is Tom, 60229, now commentating on the left. He is Taiwanese, not Chinese. I do believe there are 4 people in the studio or around the area who are not actually Chinese. I think it's Eloise, or not right now, but eventually. Eloise, Surrender, Tom, and Calento, I believe. So that'll be interesting to see because they were all extended invites to go there.
Right. It's just traveling to China is generally a bit of a hassle, especially for Well, for anyone who doesn't have a visa, you have to kind of apply for a visa. And although it's pretty easy for most Europeans to get a visa, it's still a hassle to go to the embassy. And Colentos has a visa anyway, so it may be more convenient. And he actually really likes going to China in general because he has a lot of fans in China. In China, he's probably along with Savitz as well. Savitz, Reynad, Colento. They're three of the most popular players in China, as opposed to in the West. Like you would say, maybe Amaz and Trump are a bit more popular.
Yeah, it's really funny that way. Although Colento's his stream numbers are getting pretty up there. Although it could be because of China as well. But yeah, I do remember looking for some information and just kind of wading through the Chinese websites, not knowing too much Chinese myself, and using copy paste to find people's names and get information. And I stumbled on a couple of sites that had Colento. They had his name kind of nicknamed with like God in there, so apparently they
Yeah.
refer to him as God Lento as well.
Oh, they actually they referred to him as K God in China.
Right, right, okay.
And I remember I had this like really long and like kind of awkward conversation with him where he kept asking me why they called him K God. Like I don't know, it's like he couldn't understand the concept of like adding K to like adding God to someone's first initial. He's like, why that nickname? Why like not some other random nickname? I'm
It's
like,
like
I don't know, it's just something they do.
just call me God Lento. It's the best. No,
Yeah.
did we have a regame? Wasn't there a? Oh wait, no.
I think there was a spectator bug, so we had to switch screens or
Oh,
switch
right, right.
sides.
So I remember someone had a one drop, so I was like, wait, what just happened? So it is life coach. It seems on the shaman, and it looks like we have the perspectives reversed here. And okay, there it is. So life coach. Giving us the ability to see his turn one play. Thank you very much for the rope. It actually helped in this instance. And going to be a Tunnel Trog turn one. No coin into the Cogmaster. And let's see what Firebat can do to combat this. This is pretty scary for the Hunter here. Having to deal with
Right.
this guy with has so much health. It's kind of like dealing with a Mana Worm.
Yeah, back in the day when I was like keeping stats of around like 3 months ago, Hunter versus Mech Shaman was actually the most one-sided matchup ever because it was something like 17-2 in favor of Hunter.
Yeah.
And
I saw that percentage
yeah.
too, yeah.
These days, though, I think it's a little better because there's a lot more racing potential from the Shaman. And also, it has like more opportunities to get board control, especially with the Tunnel Trog. That card has made such a difference. But it's also like makes a difference on whether like you start with it or not. So if Life Coach hadn't drawn that Tunnel Trog on turn one, I think that matchup like would still be like 80-90% in favor of Hunter. But now with the Tunnel Trog, Life Coach has much more of a chance.
Yeah, definitely. And you have just so much burst coming out of the Shaman, even though, like you say, the old Mech Shaman had that burst as well. Just more resilient minions like this Unbound Elemental. I don't really play I've played kind of Luffy version, which didn't have the Unbound Elemental, but I felt this matchup was pretty decent for the Shaman, just because you get to race them so easily, and things like the Tunnel Trog that stick on the board and are just annoying for the Hunter to deal with. They don't want to be trading into a Tunnel Trog, but they'll trade into something smaller, like those Whirling Zavomatics that are easier to kill. So yeah, overall, just much better matchup for the Shaman. We'll see how this one in particular plays out. Firebat with the opportunity to play the Animal Companion. What is he holding right now? Do you know?
I did not catch that. It might have been a second animal companion.
Yeah, it could.
Oh, just a Labrador.
Yeah, just wants to get as many things on the board as possible. Obviously, that means he's highly likely to kind of float some mana next turn, but yeah, just wants as much stuff in general. And it could set up for a really good Leok next turn, potentially.
Right. Now, not only that, it just clearly telegraphs to Life Coach, hey, I'm either a phase hunter or a hybrid hunter. Definitely not a mid-range hunter right now. I'm not going for Houndmaster plays, which probably it's probably not good for Life Coach. I feel like mid-range hunter would probably be the worst type of hunter against this kind of deck.
For whose sake? For life?
For Firebat, it would be the worst for Firebat.
Oh yeah, because it's too slow to be able to deal with the burst from Shaman.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I kind of heard the opposite, so I was a bit confused. But yeah, Life Coach with another kind of tough decision here. The Cog Masters don't trade well with the Mad Scientist, but they're okay versus everything else. And I mean, one option is to just crackle the face and then get a good chunk of damage in. You do get fire damage from your minions that way, just going to the face. So um, we'll see how much he has embraced the Smork this right now. Could be the play, but no, gonna go ahead and just get some guys on the board. We'll see if he makes any trades here. And again, sorry for the lag there, guys. And yeah, just one trade goes to face with the other one. We'll see if Firebat's Leok summoning skills are on point. Typically you want Huffer, or sometimes Misha, but in this case,
Yeah.
Leok's probably the best. Gets the Huffer, always Huffer.
Honestly, none of them are that bad here.
Yeah, true. They're all pretty good, which is why Animal Companion is put in basically every Hunter deck, no matter what you're playing, because typically you're going to get something good out of it. It can be pretty bad sometimes, but in this case, all of them were pretty decent.
Okay, Pilot Shredder curves out, but it looks like Firebat will definitely have a strong stranglehold on board control.
Well, the don't underestimate how sticky this Pilot Shredder can be, although I guess you're right, he can play the Freezing Trap to be able to, or just activate it with the Mad Scientist, but yeah, the looks like board control will go to Firebat potentially for the foreseeable future. Lifecoach not understanding potentially the Smork trades that he needs to make here.
Right. Yeah, going for a lot of the control plays. Life Coach, he went along the line of just trading and getting minion value, getting board control. But unfortunately, it just looks like, just looking at both these hands, it looks like Firebat has way more options in order to wrestle board control away. Like, all these cards, with the exception of Kill Command, just do exactly that. They get board control, and Kill Command can even be used to get board control, whereas Life Coach's hand, like Crackle, that's really not good for board control. Doomhammer, really not good as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to go back to that last play where he traded his 2/3 into a 4/1. That's kind of a control play that you make, right? You kind of want to mitigate damage to your face as much as possible, but I felt like he had to kind of get as greedy as possible and start trading with some of the other minions, or maybe even go face there. As it stands, he is able to, make sure that the Mad Scientist from Firebat doesn't get any value, but getting your Pallet Shredder, which is one of your biggest minions in your deck, frozen back, is not the best situation. And,
So here's an interesting path for Life Coach. Life Coach, so far, I don't think he's seen any Hybrid Hunter cards. Like, he hasn't seen Lotheb or Piloted Shredders from his opponent. So at this point, he might be thinking, is this Face Hunter or Hybrid Hunter? Is this Explosive Trap from Face Hunter? Or is this a Freezing Trap from Hybrid Hunter? And he has to make a decision pretty quickly.
the one thing he does know though, excuse me, is that it is the same trap, so most likely it's going to be Freezing Trap. Obviously, Explosive Trap can be something if you're playing against Face Hunter, but a lot of times those run one copy of Snake Trap as well. So overall, I would say it's slightly more likely that's going to be Freezing. But yeah, overall, I just think that Life Coach needs to be kind of racing more rather than worrying about the board. Firebat seems to be doing a better job of just not worrying about his opponent's board and just hitting the face, even playing, what is kind of the slower deck.
Okay, realizing that, again, this is not Snake Trap.
Yeah, for the third time. So, I mean, obviously he wants to kind of get that value, quote unquote, of getting rid of the scientist without getting the secret off, which, is pretty valuable a lot of the time, but he's taking a lot of damage and he's just losing the race. Firebat just hero powering from here on out will be able to get a lot of damage in.
There's also the option, so after you make these attacks, do you think it's better to use the Totem Golem or the Pilot Shredder here? Because the totem that you get with the hero power fitted in could be a taunt totem, and it seems like you'd rather have the Totem Golem bounce back rather than a second Pilot Shredder.
Yeah, that could be the case. I think he just wants to get as much power on the board as possible. And interestingly enough, Life Coach kind of holding back on attacking worked out here because Firebat wasn't able to play this Freezing Trap. But he's on 4 health, so this game is pretty much over. Life Coach is never going to be able to race. He's not dead, as we can see, at least in the hand of Firebat, but he needs to pick up... He needs to already have Rockbiter in hand and pick up the double Rockbiter, I think, in order to win here. Well, though, Okay, let's see. What can he do here? He can maybe, if Firebat doesn't pick up the win here, and Life Coach top decks Rockbiter, would that be lethal? Um, because he
Yeah.
can guaranteed get the he gets more damage with the Crackle in on this, and he gets actually spell damage on him. So he actually has a kind of outside chance. Up there, never mind. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's the quick shot from Firebat. He's able to pick up the win, and he goes up 2 games to 0 on Life Coach here, and only the Shaman
Yeah.
remaining for Firebat.
That's actually really unfortunate because I believe Lifecoach actually had lethal on board with the Crackle in hand. He
Right.
didn't even need to top deck Rockbiter weapon there.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's kind of just shows the incredible burst power of the shaman, which is kind of why I wanted to see him raise as well. You can kind of just get these explosive turns, um, but he went for kind of more board control, and I think that ended up hurting him in the end because he was taking tons of damage with his Doomhammer, damage that he I think was going to take in the end.
Yeah, honestly, that was really hard to tell. Just either way, Life Coach, like basically, if he went for the more faceplate, it would have turned out to be a completely different game.
Mhm.
Who knows, really?
So you can see Light Coach a bit exasperated, not enjoying playing this sort of, aggressive style of decks. Not his forte, obviously. But we are going to be going into, I think, an exact mirror. Are they playing the exact same card for card
No,
decks?
no. Life Coach is slightly higher curved, so he has piloted shredders in his deck, whereas Firebats just caps out at the spider tanks and the unbound elementals.
Okay. So yeah, a bit faster for Firebat, though Life Coach does have a very low costed hand. And pretty tough decision here for Firebat because if he plays that Tunnel Trog, he could get blown out by some sort of mech. On the other hand, he could play the Tunnel Trog into Coin Lightning Bolt, but that locks him out of his next turn. So pretty tough decision here for him.
Yeah, if you don't play the lightning bolt here, the problem is that, um, like if Life Coach just plays a mech, which he has a very good chance of having in his hand, then you just get completely
Hmm.
blown out. Whereas with this, it's really hard for Life Coach to deal with this 2-3. He'd have to Rockbiter or Lightning Bolt, and that's kind of not what you want to do on turn two. Like if you Lightning Bolt, you overload yourself on turn two, meaning that you can't even play anything the next turn.
Oh wow! So it looks like Firebat picked up a one drop. Yeah, I guess that Leopard Gnome really good for him to be able to do that. Though Life Coach can play two, or he can play two cards at the very least, depending whether he wants to go for two minions or a minion and a lightning bolt. Going back to that first turn, since Life Coach might take a while here, I think it might have been okay to go for the Coin Totem Golem, and then he has the Trog for the next turn, and obviously Totem Golem kind of contest anything that comes on the board. What do you think about that?
Totem Golem. So if he coin out the Totem Golem, he would only have one mana the next turn. I guess the problem I have with that is if you leave yourself with one mana the following turn, then you're forced to Lightning Bolt, and that can get kind of awkward.
Well, he had the Trog, is the thing.
Or you can Trog, but the problem with the Trog is that you might leave yourself vulnerable to the Trog just being a 1/3 and having like a Whirling Zapomatic
Right,
or
right.
like something else trade into it.
Okay, so in any case, ends up working out okay for him. Looks like Life Coach goes for this more control play rather than playing the Whirling Zapomatic, which wouldn't trade very, very well. Firebat has no removal in hand, which is unfortunate for him. Likely going to be seeing. Well, he could go for Mech Warper and Whirling Zapomatic, but that obviously doesn't trade too well with the
Yeah,
boards.
can you imagine how much better this deck would be if Totem Golem were a mech?
I know, right? It would be pretty insane, but
Right,
I don't
like
think
that
you.
last turn would have been pretty insane there.
Yeah, kind of funny that it's a totem. With all the tribes in Hearthstone, totems not quite there yet as far as being
Yeah.
something that can kind of compete. But well, it's starting. The totem golem's doing his best. In any case, Life Coach has an interesting decision here. He can, just get super board control by using the lava roots. Looks like he's going for that. It's just too ugly to trade any other way. It seems like.
Yeah, you get that recurring 5 damage in, and it looks like Firebat doesn't have a way to deal with that. He didn't have a way to deal with the last turn. He's probably not going to have a way to deal with it this turn. Rockfighter though, so He can clear it off this turn, I guess.
Yeah.
It's really inefficient though. Even more inefficient than that lava burst to kill a 3/4.
Yeah, I don't think Firebat's really too worried about this Mech Warper right now. He knows that Lifecoach only has 2 cards in hand, so what are you really, allowing to be discounted? Though he is actually gonna take it out. I guess he's worried about it just trading into his Whirling Dap-O-Matic. That's probably his biggest concern right now. Again, sorry for the bit of lag spikes. We are piggybacking on the Chinese stream, and again, thanks to Celestial for allowing us to piggyback off their stream as well. Just to throw that out there. But Life Coach, I mean, this is kind of Life Coach's wheelhouse, though, right? I mean, even though it's an aggressive deck, just being able to play aggro versus aggro in a matchup that lends itself to more trading. He's more comfortable, I think, with this right now.
Yeah, and for the first turn here, Firebat just doesn't have anything really. He just plays the minions, and unfortunately,
Well,
when Rolling Zap-O-Matic gets really buffed up, and oh wow, double Tunnel Trog again. When Rolling Zap-O-Matic just like does its work, it's gonna do 6 damage a turn. That's gonna be pretty threatening. But
I mean,
again, Life Coach draws a little dead too, actually.
yeah, Firebat has a bigger board. I mean, he has like pretty good trades to make here, and Life Coach doesn't have much damage outside of that.
Oh,
But
that's pretty key.
yeah, this is pretty good. I think, I mean, almost anything Firebat drew there would have been probably useful. Any sort of minion on the board as well. So he gets to get a couple trades here. He gets to kill the Tunnel Trog. And I feel like Firebat, he's ahead in this game. It's going to be on Life Coach to kind of draw damage. I imagine he wants to draw a Doomhammer right now.
Yeah, it's just funny because I think like 2 turns ago, Life Coach was in a pretty commanding lead there. But these top decks, when when you're drawing either potentially like a really good card in Power Mace or a really bad card in either 1-drop or burn, it just makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Life Coach with the Rock Biter not going to be too helpful for him. You can tell he's like kind of almost despondent playing right now because he just hates not having options in his hand, right? It's probably so much more painful for him to be in this spot with no options and nothing to do. Rather than his opponent kind of killing him with 10 cards in hand. I think he'd much prefer the latter, but it's just, I don't know, just a sad situation for Life Coach not being able to do anything. As far as how Firebat came back into this game, I think he just had one more big minion to be able to kind of secure this right here. Like, say if he had only the Totem Golem or only the Unbound Elemental and maybe a spell instead of what he drew there, it could have been better for Life Coach, but yeah, Firebat just kind of barely edging the win there. Kind of like how Paladin versus Paladin works out, where one player can kind of snowball just with that one minion.
Yeah, it feels like it matters even more in Shaman versus Shaman, especially the aggressive Shamans, because only like a few cards in your deck are actually good at trading, like the Totem Golem, the Unbound, the Spider Tank, and the Tunnel Trog, perhaps. All the other cards are just focused on burn, which is not really what you want at all.
Yeah, it's definitely the case. So Firebat, again, sorry, we hit a bit of a lag spike, and we get the advertisement, the Sharket Rock. Did I say Sharket Rock? The Rocket Shark on the screen there. Firebat's basically just... The thing is to look at this match is that Firebat still has to kind of clear for a few turns because he is at such a low life total. So he has to clear basically every single totem and everything that comes out because he might just die to some sort of weird, flame tongue, whatever. So yeah, he has to basically clear every single turn. So Life Coach has several turns here to draw on something like a Doomhammer. And if Firebat can't get a taunt, Life Coach still can take this win.
Each turn, though, it's more and more likely for Firebat to get that taunt totem because it doesn't look like Life Coach will be clearing any of his totems anytime soon. So if Firebat doesn't get the taunt this turn, then he's almost guaranteed to get the taunt the next turn, which kind of locks Life Coach out.
Yeah, that said,
Life Coach, he was thinking he definitely didn't want to trade the last turn with this Rockbiter because he was going for the Doomhammer out. But now that he drew the piloted Shredder, it changes everything.
Yeah, definitely. This pilot shredder could kind of dominate the board here and reverse the situations board-wise. We do know that Firebat has that lava burst in hand to be able to kind of remove. But I mean, Life Coach knows that he knows it's probably removable, probably not going to be a minion. So he's thinking that I need to make sure that my pilot shredder can stick to the board so I can kind of get minion combat later. He's deciding which one to kill. The Totem Golem can be scary if Firebat removes the first half of this Pilot Shredder because it can heal even farther. Like it can kill 2, 3 and keep healing from there. Whereas the Unbound Untimate can grow even farther. So a pretty tough decision there from Lifecoach. Does go with the kill on the um, that guy. The oh my god, Unbound Elemental. Okay, so let's go with the kill on that. And Firebat is now contemplating hitting face here.
One like the key tenet that Firebat tells everyone that when people ask him for advice is always set up lethal. So let's look at this board right now. 6 damage with the lava burst, and then 3 with the totem golem. So the Firebat can put his opponent down to 11, and in addition to that, he will have 6 damage on the next turn, which is just not enough.
Yeah, I guess he figures that if he starts trading with his Pilot Shredder, obviously it has 2 bodies, so it's just kind of too annoying for Firebat to deal with, and he might not be able to close the game out if he doesn't start hitting the face of Life Coach. And obviously that Taunt Totem helps as well, so yeah, I guess the second 50-50.
That Taunt Totem was pretty huge because now there's a whole host of cards that Life Coach can't draw for lethal. Like, for example, a weapon isn't lethal anymore. Any spell isn't lethal anymore.
Wow, and that would have been lethal had that been the case. Though Firebat maybe would have played slightly differently if that were not the case. You never know. Life Coach here, what can he do to save himself? Obviously that Lightning Bolt hits for 4, so he can clear out either this Totem Golem or this Spider Tank. Likely going to be the Spider Tank because of the mech synergies. And from there he can stave off killing himself. But what do you... I imagine he's going to use the Lightning Bolt to kill off the Spider Tank. You use one Shredder on the Taunt Totem, and then from there, I guess you kill the Trog because that guy can grow.
There's actually a possibility that you want to kill off both your piloted Shredders in order for more of a possibility to get something relevant, right? Like a Flame Tongue or a Vitality Totem.
Looks like he's not going to go for that option.
Yeah.
And
there was
oh, but that's actually a big deal. He actually attacked with the wrong one because if he attacked with the left one, then the right one could spawn in Direful Alpha or the Flame Tongue Totem. So,
yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah. So now, if this is a buffer guy, okay, Shield Minibot's a good minion in general, but not right now. I'm gonna go ahead and kill off the minions that we thought he would kill off. Assuming that he didn't go for double trade. Let's see if Firebat can pick up lethal. Doesn't pick up lethal. But does get, a sizable minion that Life Coach will have to deal with. And, importantly, no Taunt Totem this time.
I kind of feel like you have to go for face.
Yeah, I don't think you can trade here. It's just...
So half the deck is lethal now. That's not one of those cards. So we're going to see some more trading again.
He has to Totem first, right? To guarantee that he gets the Taunt Totem. And then what do you do from there? This is really tough. So what do you do? Do you taunt?
I think you trade the piloted Shredder first.
Right. Because you can get some totem humps. But then you still have to totem first, just because you want that taunt totem as badly as possible.
Actually, also Life Coach has to think about: does he want to kill off the piloted Shredder this turn again? Which is quite a relevant choice. There was a game in DreamHack where a player, he could have either piloted Shreddered and then Hellfired, or Hellfired then piloted Shreddered, and he actually chose to, he thought it would be a better play to pilot Shreddered then Hellfire because the possibility of getting like a healing, a Vitality Totem is just so huge. It would have won in the game right there. And again, this might be one of those opportunities.
Yeah, Life Coach needs to kind of hurry up though. This is obviously a big decision for him. He's gonna actually kill. Oh, that kind of makes sense. Just retaining his Pilot Shredder, Gonna go ahead and trade with the rest of his stuff and leave the totem golem only. Leper gnome isn't lethal now, and
And
he needs a taunt totem actually. Yeah, he needs a taunt
yeah.
totem. Doesn't roll a taunt totem,
No.
so that's guaranteed lethal for Lifecoach. And wow, that game was just ridiculous. Oh my goodness! Wow, so
That was so
Lifecoach,
back and forth.
jeez. Just on pins and needles that entire time in the end. Life Coach takes it, finally clears his shaman, and that's going to be bringing it up to 1-2. Life Coach still in the deficit there, but he gets his shaman out of the way. Now we get to see what he can do with his mid-range hunter or his mech mage against Firebat's face shaman.
Yeah, two decks that Life Coach certainly has way more experience with. And I think they'll be pretty good matchups. Mech Mage versus Mech Shaman, I think it's probably going to be close to a 50-50, but that mid-range Hunter probably still has a decent advantage against the Mech Shaman from Firebat. Even though it's just it's not hybrid, it's not face. Still, Hunter just overall I feel like has a little bit better racing potential than Shaman. It also has the board clears, which Shaman does not. Unleash the Hounds could be a crucial card here.
Yeah, definitely. Although I think he only has one Unleash the Hounds, if I remember correctly. Or was
Oh,
it
you know what?
Firebat?
I believe that was Firebat, and also Life Coach. He has Explosive Trap in his deck, so that could matter quite a bit. It also doesn't really make sense to have one Unleash the Hounds and one Explosive Trap in the deck because they both fulfill like similar purposes, and Unleash the Hounds is kind of just you would think the better card.
Yeah, a lot of the cases. Though, I mean, sometimes it can fall flat. In the case we aren't going to see the Hunter quite yet, if at all, potentially. We are going to see the Mech Mage come up first, and pretty good hands on both sides, it looks like so far.
Yeah, both very strong cards, very strong opening hands. Although I feel like a Leopardome is actually like it's really good against control decks. I feel, but against decks that really try to control for the board, it's really not that great because it doesn't really trade up really well.
Yeah. But, whoa, okay. Looks like we're having some weird graphical issues. But, yeah, going to be the 222 on the side of Firebats, whereas Life Coach, almost the same thing, full house in his hand. And, yeah, pretty tough decision here. He can go with the with one of his 2 drops to get a good trade on that Leper Gnome, but he can also go for double ones, though he probably doesn't really favor the Cog Master getting traded into by that Leper Gnome.
Hmm. Yeah, just on turn one, like I think any player would rope right here.
Yeah, this
But
is
it's Life Coach, so we'll probably see him go all the way to the end.
yeah, definitely. I mean, this is honestly a really tough choice. He could literally play any card or any set of cards in his hand, and it would be uh, something that could be deemed correct. I think he might go for the Mech Warper here, though, just because. Yeah, just kind of taking a chance his opponent doesn't have anything to deal with it, and he also gets to play the Clockwork Gnome as well. So just getting as much stuff on the board as and you know, both of these trade pretty well with the Leper Gnome. So I kind of like this. He sets up for 2 mechs on the following turn as well, and puts himself in a pretty good position.
Yeah. On the other hand, Firebat will have a pretty strong board as well with that Totem Golem. This is exactly what Totem Golem was made to do. I feel it's if it was made to do anything, made to deal with mechs because all these mechs are 2/3s basically, or even like lowly 1/2s. Unfortunately for Firebat though, he kind of overloads into his turn 3, so he can't play Mech Warper into an Neutron.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for him. And Firebat's kind of hovered over that crackle for a bit there. It's a really tough decision, honestly, because we can see in Life Coach's hand that he has the Yeti, and that's something that's you know, on Firebat's mind. Obviously, doesn't want the Yeti or the Shredder to come out this early. It's something not really something he can deal with at the moment. And it looks like he made the right play, I believe, just because that Yeti would have been so much trouble for him. As it is, Life Coach probably going to have to just settle for this Cogmaster and probably a ping.
Yeah, I would think so. I guess the problem with just only having a ping here is you expect to be playing the mechanical Yeti on turn 4,
Yeah,
and you don't really want to ping again. So it looks like this Firebat might have a free 3-1 going into the next turn.
yeah, definitely. Um, So yeah, that's one of the problems. But you ping it just in case. It's more likely that this ping to the totem golem is relevant than the ping to the face is relevant in this situation. So you kind of do it just in case. But yeah, you're definitely right. It's so painful to ping that, knowing that you might not have the ability to do it later. Although he could go for it anyway this turn, considering he just picked up that Annoytron.
Yeah. Uh, Anorotrons, it's really the battle of Anorotrons here. We're gonna see at least 3 in this game. And they're pretty relevant, but again, they're more of a nuisance than anything. Just kind of delaying the inevitable here. I do like this course of action. Although not getting Mechanical Yeti on the board means that, for example, if Firebat put a Spider Tank or a Totem Golem again on the board, then Lifecoach would have quite a bit more trouble dealing with it on the following turn.
Yeah, and one thing that Life Coach maybe is considering is that he can use his spare part with the Yeti next turn to kind of be pretty annoying as well. That's also something to keep in consideration. Again, sorry for the kind of bits of lag here and there. We are piggybacking the Chinese stream to give this to you. And I guess while we're saying stuff like that, might as well give thanks to Tempo Storm for allowing us to host on their channel as well. But looks like Firebat's deciding whether or not he wants to Rock Biter. He does have the mana for it, so he's able to, get that in there and clear the
Yeah.
Noitron.
Well, one problem that Shaman has in this matchup is that its hero power is quite worse than the mage hero power. You saw Life Coach was able to fit in the Fire Blast from the mage to be quite effective, but for all Firebat has is totem, and I guess sometimes you can get a taunt totem that might be okay. Sometimes you can get a spell power totem, but honestly, spell power totem not really relevant in this matchup unless you get spell power lightning bolt on a 3/4. Beyond that, the spell power just mostly overkills your opponent's minions.
Well, you can just go face, you know.
Okay.
That's it's extra damage on the face. So
But wouldn't you rather have a fire blast to face instead?
yeah, true. You don't need to get the extra damage on the spells when you just use the Fire Blast instead. I definitely agree. The Fire Blast is definitely a better hero power in this situation, which is why you don't typically see the Shaman run at all recently. To be fair, but I mean, it is working out pretty well with, especially with that Tunnel Trog being able to buff it up quite a bit, and that's why you kind of seeing these decks a bit more today, or the aggro shaman a bit more recently. But yeah, in this particular situation, not going to be working out quite as well. Though Life Coach has slowed down a bit, and Firebat with that Power Mace can make some stuff
Right.
happen here.
I feel like Power Mace is like the one key card in the matchup because it's the best tool that Shaman has in order to gain board control. Now that he's drawn the Power Mace, any mech that Firebat draws will be pretty amazing here.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be trading out here to get some good trades in, make sure that his Unbound Elemental doesn't take too much damage. However, that will be getting rid of his mech if he decides to do so. Um, what he could do instead is kill. Well, I guess no matter what, he's vulnerable to a ping on his Noitron, so kind of tough to save it regardless. But maybe he makes it just difficult for his opponent overall to kill the Noitron here.
Hmm. Not drawing that well here, but the problem with Mirror Entity is that Firebat's minions are probably going to be pretty weak.
Hmm.
And but then again, if Firebat draws into, let's say, any smaller mech like a mech warper, or I believe he's used both the Neurotrons. If he draws into anything smaller, then he can just play it, kill it off with his power mace, and then buff it up, and that'll be pretty devastating. Something that maybe not even an Archmage Antonidas can deal with.
Yeah, but instead he gets the Crackle, which is not going to be too useful. Looks like he's going to just buff up his totem to allow him to, or first to check for counterspell, but also to make that kind of a threat, something that Lifecoach has to deal with. And but overall, I mean, there's not much damage coming from Firebat, so I feel like Lifecoach has the edge here, just because on turn 8 he can Antonidas freeze, and unlike, I mean, Firebat may be able to deal with that, but it probably uses some sort of resource, and then from there Lifecoach has a free Fireball, and if Firebat can't deal with it, then Lifecoach has an endless stream of Fireballs, and he's at a high enough life total where he can kind of execute that plan
Yeah.
without dying.
You would think two aggressive decks would be just going face against each other all the time, and cards like Archmage to Antonize wouldn't really matter. But the thing is, when two aggressive decks they go toe to toe with each other, it's more like a race for board control than a race for face. It's kind of interesting how that works. And Archmage to Antonize just plays as a 5/7, kind of with taunt is just pretty amazing here, especially since Life Coach does have the card advantage and he has the life advantage to work with.
Yeah, it's totally true what you're saying. With all these small minions that you have in the deck, if you don't make the good trades, your opponent's going to make really good trades. And in the end, they're just going to have more damage to kind of push you out of the game and to get that damage in eventually if you decide to kind of go face. Obviously, there's situations where you ignore your opponent's minions, but yeah, typically it's not the case. And it's pretty different from something like, for instance, having your... than having like an aggro deck go against a mid-range deck, for instance, and it's over in 2 seconds just because the aggressive deck is able to ignore all of the stuff that the mid-range deck puts out there.
So I think we're gonna be looking to a race in our hands. Probably Archmage Antonius and Freeze is gonna come down. I would think, just to give an unlimited supply of fireballs.
Yeah, he is
Uh,
kind of wondering what that card is in Firebat's hand that Firebat has held on to for a few turns here. He does have a pretty clean, Pilot Shredder into the Snow Chugga into ping off the totem there. Maybe he baits out some sort of removal and his Antonidas has, a free path. Looks like he's going to go with that play. I mean, he is getting board control here anyway. I kind of like this, even though it's so tempting to go for the Antonidas. I feel like if he does this, like any removal that Firebat has, he's going to use on these cards. Or Firebat's going to go face, and maybe Life Coach can then free something with the Antonidas, like a big minion.
right. Yeah, basically the problem here is that this Snow Chugger in particular is just so threatening because it shuts out the Doomhammer altogether, which at this point of the game, it seems to be like Firebat's win condition. With having that Doomhammer frozen, it doesn't look like Firebat can win at all.
Yeah, definitely. So Firebat, he's eyeing that Crackle to be able to get rid of the Snow Chugga. It is that threatening. And, well, he might actually attack it with his second charge here
Oh,
instead
I, I,
of taking
I
the
think
4
there's.
damage. No,
I
he's
don't
going
think
face.
there's really a way.
Yeah, if freezing out for 1 turn, yeah, it's pretty bad. So he's going to go for that. Going to go hit the face with the rest of his stuff. Not going to play the Mech Warper to give a free trade with that Shredder, but here comes the pain for Firebat. Life Coach, does he? I mean, he has to use the freeze just to get at least that one Fireball, but interesting to see what he does apart from that. Oh yeah, I forgot about Firebat didn't play the Mech Orb because he couldn't deal with the Mirror Entity, that's right. He's actually going to kill the 1/1 and probably kill the
Well, yeah, this looks about right. You want to
yeah.
kill off the spell power totem and freeze the 1/1.
Yeah, okay.
Lava burst.
There's a lot of damage. So can Firebat win this game without playing a minion from here on out? That would be pretty interesting. Though he's dead, isn't he? This next turn, so he has to do something. He has to lava burst. Sorry, he has to lava burst something, or otherwise he's dead just on board, or with his information, I should say.
Yeah, there's 23 damage on board, kind of.
So is he looking for the Doomsayer here?
Is there any other card that would help him out here besides Doomsayer?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think there's anything that stops spells. There's some stuff that stops minions. Anyway, Life Coach is going to take that game. He actually ties up the series after Firebat had gone up 2 games to 0. And we're going to be having a Hunter versus Shaman for our last game to see who can remain in first place in this group.
Hunter versus Shaman. So yet again, it's kind of like the Mech Shaman is really underperforming here. The only game that Mech Shaman has won in this tournament so far is in the mirror, where Firebat defeated his opponent again in the mirror.
Oh, Life Coach won the
Or
mirror.
Life Coach defeated Firebat rather, right? So again, it seems like even though Mech Shaman has been kind of like a hype deck in the past week or so, maybe it's really not all it's hyped out to be, or maybe it's just that there's a lot of bad matchups for the deck. For instance, both decks are running into hunters.
Yeah, it seems to work a bit better against control decks, which is, I assume, what they were trying to match up against in this situation. But unfortunately, they're going against decks that aren't working out too well for them. And going back to that Shaman Mirror that was so close, that went right down to the end, those last few turns could have a huge role in determining the state of this group, considering that Firebat could have won 3-0 and been, +5 on the day with a 6-1 score. But instead, maybe he loses this one, and obviously he'd only be a +1 on the day as far as games go. He'd be 1-1 in series scores. Lifecoach would be 2-0. So that one game back then could change like everything in this group.
Yeah, it's very possible for like let's say both three players to go 2-1 in matches, and then it all comes down to the group score. And with Firebat dropping some games here, let's say he loses his next match, maybe his score differential won't be as good enough to advance him out of the group. It might be all the difference you need, just one or two games, won or lost.
Yep, and that's going to be huge going forth, obviously. And so obviously this game 5 is really important. We've seen somewhat one-sided series so far, both the Western players taking out their Chinese counterparts 3-1 in the first couple series, but here is the first nail-biting part of this group. Game 5, this could determine a lot of how this group pans out, and Firebat looks like he has the edge as far as opening hands, though that explosive trap could do some work.
Right. Not only that, but you have Explosive Trap and Unleash the Hounds, which is a very potent combo against a lot of the 3 health minions that Firebat is sure to put on the board.
Yeah, the dream with this King's Elect is to get a low cost minion, but still somehow win the joust.
Oh, right, right. So what's the best minion you can get, really? Um,
Um,
maybe like a Haunted Creeper or Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist wouldn't even be good here because you already have so many secrets in hand.
yeah,
So a Haunted Creeper, and you joust against, let's say,
Another
a Cog
Cogmaster
Master,
or
right,
Tunnel
or a Tunnel
Trog.
Trog.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is when you're playing an aggro deck against mid-range deck, and they win, but they get Doctor Boom. You're like, great, keep your Doctor Boom. I mean, it gets it out of the way, right?
Yeah, it does thin your deck out a bit.
But at the same time, you're like, whatever. So it looks like he loses.
Oh,
I mean, to be fair, it would be really lucky to win with a Knife Juggler. But yeah, unable to get that. Firebat will be able to get a pretty good trade here. I wonder if he coins instead. It's gonna coin. Oh, he's gonna coin the Neutron. Looks like we're experiencing a bit of lag here. Again, apologies for that. And all right, yeah, Neutron does come out. Let's see if he goes for the trade. Pretty tough decision. I mean, face damage is pretty valuable, especially as the aggressive deck. But killing this obviously would make your Neutron even more annoying.
probably the only reason not to trade here is if you're scared of Unleash the Hounds here. I think
Yeah, what does Unleash the Hounds do really here? I mean, they
it
trade not too well into the Neutron anyway, so well, um, we're probably. I mean, no, I mean, the Unleash the Hounds doesn't really do too much here. It does. I guess it does get rid of two things. Gets rid of the Neutron and gets rid of the Cogmaster and leaves yourself with the 3-1 against a 2-3. The other option is to Web Spinner plus the Explosive Trap. Also,
is is
Firebot doesn't probably expect Lifecoach to be running Explosive Trap, so that could work to his benefit. Maybe Firebat run just goes face and doesn't trade with any minions on board because he believes it to be Snake Trap.
Right. Is there any merit to playing freezing trap here instead of explosive trap?
I don't think so. I mean, you're killing stuff off rather than freezing it. I think it's just better to play the explosive. Yeah, so he's gonna go for that. Doesn't go for the Unleash the Hounds. Could get Nitric Unleash the Hounds later on in the game for a huge turn. And you kind of expect your opponent's board to be a little bit full later on, though we don't see any minions other than that Whirling Zapmatic that just got top decked in the hand of Firebat. But yeah, really important decision here for Firebat. If it's snakes and you give your opponent snakes, I mean, there's no
There's no AoE for
yeah,
the
there's no,
shaman.
yeah, no lightning storm, and he does go face, so that's huge for Lifecoach. You can see it in his eyes though, and yeah, it isn't frozen, so you can see in the face of Lifecoach, he's pretty hopeful here about his prospects. But yeah, looking pretty good for Lifecoach. Um, wow, going to be a full clear on the board of Lifecoach, just so Firebat can get as much damage in with that Whirling Zapmatic. Interesting.
Ooh, Haunted Creeper.
Yeah, Haunted Creeper will allow him to play that Freezing Trap if he so desires, or he could kind of go greedy with the Shredder, but he would be taking 8 damage guaranteed, which is not something you want to be doing.
Yeah, you do kind of want to set up for Unleash the Hounds, though. Possibly hope that your opponent plays more minions on the board. I think he knows he'll probably at least kind of totem up. I think this is 8 damage that he can afford to take. Because on the next turn, if he just plays the Pilot Shredder, he's kind of guaranteed to clear the board.
It's pretty scary though, right? Because if you allow 8 damage here and your opponent gets a Doom Hammer, then you're on a serious clock. So you can obviously Lifecoach is going to go to the rope, as you can see here, to kind of figure this one out. And going to actually use Hounds to clear the Whirling Zapmatic, interestingly enough. And his young Dragonhawk does contest the Mech Warper.
Yeah, again, by far the most defensive play that he could have gone for. Which makes sense from such a control player like Lifecoach.
And again, he's more in his element now than he was with the kind of aggressive shaman from before. Another interesting decision here, the Freezing Trap will help mitigate that buffed Mech Warper, but we do see a Leopard Gnome that could get played eventually, though the Haunted Creeper would be able to contest that as well. Pretty tough decision for Lifecoach again. Especially because that, I mean, the Shredder can deal with the buffed up Mech Warper, but then he's taking a lot of damage in the meantime, so pretty tough. Let's see how defensive he gets.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same thing again. The most defensive play with Haunted Creeper and Freezing Trap, that's actually just really defensive. The problem with that play is it gives your opponent so much time to draw into cards where you're only putting in a singular point of damage on the board. And I mean, you're going to kill him over the course of 25 turns, but...
Well, I mean, the other consideration is that you have a pretty solid hand here, so maybe just slowing the game down as much as possible can work to your benefit because of the fact that you really want your high main to be just like smacking the face as often as possible. That might be what Lifecoach deems his win condition.
Yeah, it's pretty good analysis. That's exactly what he does go for. And again, Firebat's in kind of a predicament. Once again, Firebat has to kind of play around traps here.
The funny thing is that he can actually buff this Mech Warper afterwards, interestingly enough. And he's only costing himself a totem, so this actually ended up working out pretty well for Firebat.
Yeah, I think this worked out amazingly. I don't know if Lifecoach had considered this because there's really no way for him to deal with this 4-5.
Yeah, it looks like he's just gonna fight fire with fire. No more being able to play. He doesn't even have the option to play defensive anymore. Just gonna have to put his own stuff on the board, and I think this is just gonna turn to a race. I see no reason why Firebat would ever even touch that high main. So yeah, just gonna It's
Yeah,
gonna be
high
a
main is generally just like the pretty much the best six drop you can have, but against such a varied board, it's really hard to for the high main to like play defensively because it can't really clear everything all at once.
yeah. He is able to clear this Mech Warper, which does represent a decent amount of damage. But you know, Life Coach, he has a pretty significant board. Firebat, on his last legs, he needs to be able to burst his opponent out as fast as possible. And gets the spell damage totem, which is pretty huge. Get that one extra damage in. Going to be putting Life Coach at 5. Any lava burst from now on will seal the game.
Yeah,
Life Coach.
a
Sorry.
lucky crackle will seal the game.
Yep.
But beyond that, I don't think there's really much.
So what are you looking for here from the Animal Companion? I guess everything is good, right? Misha protects you, and the other two get you damage, extra damage to face.
Right.
Um,
So, like we said, the only two cards life coach is really worried about in the next few turns are the lava burst and the crackle. So really, this taunt actually doesn't matter too much. Like if you'd drawn Rockbiter here, it probably wouldn't have made that huge of a difference.
yeah. He's still gonna have to clear some of this board. Uh, I mean, I guess we see the high main trade in maybe now. And then just Doctor Boom the face, and then does he have lethal next turn if he does that? Oh, maybe he has to go face now. So if he goes Doctor Boom face, okay, looks like that's neither here nor there. He's gonna go ahead and hit face with everything. Oh wait, no. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, if he traded there, then he might have not set up lethal if his opponent
Ooh,
draws
there's the
into.
crackle. Uh-oh.
Oh man, the
No
spell
spell
power
damage.
totem.
So 50-50, a true 50-50 here. Three,
This
four, five,
exact
or
scenario
six.
happened at BlizzCon, between Daimong and Nyria. Let's see what he goes for.
Exactly
Oh,
five.
exact lethal.
Oh my goodness. So it goes down right to the end. Firebat finally takes the Shaman. Both Shaman struggling so much there, losing twice before they can pick up the win. Tom's happy about it, it seems. And yeah, Firebat is our first 2-0 player. He is not guaranteed, I believe, to move on to the final stages, but he's in an extremely good position. Since he won 3-1, he won 3-2, so he's a +3 overall. Just has to avoid getting beaten too badly in his last match, and he has pretty good decks in his last match. He has the Priest, Paladin, and Mage remaining. I guess a little bit subpar, but needs to avoid getting drubbed in the last match to be able to move on. And also avoid, some sort of three-way tie. As far as Life Coach goes, that puts him down to 1-1. Looks like we are going to have some commercials for you right now. And next up, we are going to have our two Chinese players go up against each other, that being Zoro and Blue. Don't go away.